The battle was over. The ground still smelled of smoke and blood. Soldiers celebrated in the alien city's broken streets. Loud music, cheers, and drinks filled the air. But one man stood quietly outside the command tent. His name was Jackson. Kane, a human engineer who had helped win the war. He was not a warrior. He didn't carry big guns or wear heavy armor. But when the alien power grid failed, Jackson was the one who risked his life to fix it during the final attack. Because of him, the human army could push forward and win. Now he waited. His name had been called to receive a reward. "Human," said a tall alien officer with green skin and gold armor. "You are brave. You helped your kind win this battle. And for that ... you deserve a prize." Jackson frowned. "I didn't do it for a prize." The officer ignored his words and clapped his hands. Two guards came forward, dragging something, or rather, someone. It was a woman. Her skin was a deep silver blue, her long hair matted and full of dirt. She was chained by her wrists and ankles. Her body was thin, shaking with every step. She wore torn clothes, barely covering her. Her glowing eyes stared at the ground. "This," the officer grinned, "is Syra. She is from the losing tribe. She was once a fighter, but now she is nothing. She is yours." Jackson's eyes widened. "You're giving me a person?" The guards laughed. "She's not a person anymore," one said. "She's a slave, a gift. Use her, sell her, throw her away." "Doesn't matter." Jackson stepped forward. The alien woman looked up for a second. Her eyes were full of fear and hate. She thought he would hurt her like the others did, but instead of reaching for the chains, Jackson knelt down. From his pocket, he pulled out a small packet of food and a water capsule. He opened it slowly and placed it on the ground in front of her. "Eat," he said softly. "You're safe now." The guards blinked. The officer frowned. "Are you mocking us, human?" He growled. Jackson didn't look at him. His eyes stayed on Syra. "I don't want a slave," he said, "but I won't leave her like this." Syra didn't move. Her hands trembled, but she didn't reach for the food. "Take her," the officer barked. "She's yours whether you want her or not." They shoved the chains into Jackson's hands and walked away. Now alone, Jackson gently spoke. "I'm not here to hurt you." "Can you walk?" Syra didn't answer. She looked at him, confused and scared. She didn't understand. No one had ever spoken to her like that since her capture. Finally, she nodded slowly. Jackson helped her up carefully. She winced in pain but didn't pull away. He led her back to his small quarters in the human camp. It wasn't much, just a bed, a table, and a wash station. He removed the chains from her wrists and ankles. Her skin was bruised where the metal had rubbed too hard. "You can rest here," he said. "The door isn't locked. If you want to leave, you can." Still, she said nothing. She sat down on the edge of the bed watching him. "I'll sleep on the floor," Jackson added. Syra stared at him. Then finally, in a low, shaky voice, she asked her first question. "Why? Are you being kind?" Jackson looked at her with gentle eyes. "Because no one else was," he answered. She stared at him for a long time, then looked down. Her hands gripped the blanket. For a moment, it looked like she might cry. But instead, she whispered something even more heartbreaking. "What do you want from me?" Jackson felt his chest tighten. "Nothing," he said softly. "Just rest." He turned away and laid on the cold floor, using his jacket as a pillow. Syra stayed awake for a long time. Her eyes didn't leave him. She had been sold, beaten, and traded like an object. Every time someone was kind to her, it was just a trick before the pain came. But Jackson hadn't touched her, hadn't stared at her body, hadn't even asked her to speak. She pulled the blanket over her and whispered to herself, "He's different." But deep inside, she was still afraid. Maybe this was just the calm before another storm. Asterisk, she waited. For pain, for commands, for something awful, Syra didn't sleep that night. She sat in the corner of the room like a statue, knees pulled to her chest, eyes fixed on the human lying on the floor. Why was he pretending to be kind? They all pretended first. Back in the slave cells, other girls had told her stories about men who smiled, offered soft words, then chained you tighter when you let your guard down. So Syra watched and waited for Jackson to change. But he didn't. He snored lightly, curled up in his jacket like a child. His boots were still on. He hadn't even taken her chain with him to sleep. He left the door unlocked. A test? A trick? Or maybe, was he really not like the others? The sun was rising slowly. Light slipped through the cracks of the metal walls. Syra stood quietly and walked toward the door. Every step felt heavy. Her legs still ached. Her back stung from old wounds. She turned the handle. It opened. Outside, the human camp was quiet. Some soldiers slept. Others polished weapons or ate. No one noticed her. She stepped out, bare feet touching the cold ground. She could run. She could disappear. But where? Syra had no credits, no food, no voice anyone would care to hear. In this galaxy, she was still a thing, not a person. Then she saw something that froze her in place. A group of alien guards, the same ones from before. They stood near the edge of the camp, laughing, drinking, tossing bones at a wild dog. One of them looked up. His eyes landed on her. His grin returned. Well, he said loudly. The little prize came out to play. Before she could turn, they were walking toward her. She took one step back. Did the human grow tired of you already? One of them said. Good. Come with us. We'll show you what a real reward feels like. Syra backed up fast. Her heart pounded in her chest. She turned and ran toward Jackson's quarters, but she was slow, weak. One of the guards grabbed her arm. Don't touch her. A voice roared. Jackson. He had sprinted out barefoot, eyes blazing with rage. In his hands, he held a long metal pipe. Without warning, he struck the guard's arm. The man yelped and let go. Touch her again. Jackson growled, and I'll break every bone in your body. The guards laughed. Is she your queen now, human? She's not yours anymore, Jackson snapped. Try to take her, and I'll report you to the War Council. That made them pause. Fine, one said, raising his hands. Enjoy your toy, but don't expect her to thank you. They never do. They walked off, spitting on the ground. Jackson turned to Syra. Are you okay? She stared at him, shocked. Her arms still shook. Her voice trembled as she spoke. You defended me? Yes. You got hurt for me? He looked at his bleeding knuckles and smiled weakly. They'll heal. But why? Jackson looked her in the eyes. Because you don't deserve to be treated like that. Syra didn't understand this human. She didn't trust him. She couldn't. But her chest ached in a strange way. A way she hadn't felt in years. Back inside, Jackson cleaned his hand with water and wrapped it in cloth. Syra sat on the bed again, staring at him. I need to file a report, he said, to keep them from coming back. What if they don't listen? Then I'll find someone who will. Syra looked down. Why do you keep helping me? She asked softly. He didn't answer at first. Then he said, because when I looked into your eyes yesterday, I didn't see a slave. I saw someone who needed help. And I don't care what anyone else says, you deserve to be free. She wanted to believe him, but belief was dangerous. Still, when he turned to go rest again, she whispered something. My name is Syra, he turned. Slow smile touched his lips. Nice to meet you, Syra. I'm Jackson. Cliffhanger. That night, Syra had a choice. She could run and hide forever, or stay and risk trusting a human. It started with a scream, not Syra's, someone else. A loud, desperate cry echoed through the camp just before dawn. Jackson shot up from the floor, heart racing. He looked at the bed empty. Syra? He called. No answer. He rushed to the door. and flung it open, and there she was, on the ground, kicked, surrounded, bleeding. 3 alien guards from before had dragged her to the center of the road. One held her arm, one held a weapon. The last one smiled cruelly. "She's not yours." The smiling one said to Jackson, "She belongs to the spoils of war." She was given without full approval. "That means we can take her back." Jackson's fists clenched. "She has no rights," one guard said. "No name, no papers, just a slave." Syra looked up at him. Her lips bled. Her hands were cut from the rough ground. But she said nothing. She expected him to do what most humans would do, look away. But Jackson did not look away. He walked forward slowly. One step, then another. And then he punched the first guard across the jaw. The sound echoed. The second guard tried to react, but Jackson swung his boot up, hitting the alien in the chest and knocking him back. The third guard raised his weapon, a stun rod. Jackson ducked just in time, grabbed the rod and yanked it free. He turned it on. BZZT. The shock struck the guard's neck. He dropped like a sack of stone. Syra stared, wide-eyed, as Jackson stood over the fallen guards, breathing hard, knuckles bleeding again. More soldiers ran over. Someone shouted, "Hey, what's going on? Back off." Jackson roared. They attacked her. They tried to drag her away. A human officer stepped in. "This is a problem," he muttered. "You can't just attack allies." They were going to steal her, Jackson shouted. "They said she has no rights, that she's still a slave. I won't let them take her." The officer sighed. "Technically, they're not wrong." Jackson felt his heart sink. Then he remembered something. "I want to activate Intergalactic Code 113 Delta," he said firmly. The officer blinked. "What? Refugee protocol?" "That's a forgotten law." "I know," Jackson said. "But it's still legal. She's from a fallen race. She surrendered. She's now under human protection. That gives her basic rights." The guards groaned on the ground. One of them muttered, "You'll pay for this, human." The officer looked nervous. "Do you understand what you're doing, Jackson? You're putting yourself at risk. You'll be responsible for her actions. You'll be watched, judged, blamed." Jackson didn't blink. "I accept." He turned to Syra, reached out a hand, and helped her up gently. Her knees shook. Her body leaned on his. But she looked at him like he was something unreal. "You fought them," she whispered. "I'll fight more if I have to," he answered. "You're under my protection now. You're free." Free. A word that felt like a dream. She clutched his arm tightly as they walked back to the shelter. She had no strength left, but he held her like she mattered, because to him, she did. Inside, Jackson carefully cleaned her wounds. She didn't resist this time. She watched him in silence. Every touch was gentle. Every word was soft. "You didn't have to do this," she said after a while. "I know. You got hurt. You could be punished. I know. Then why?" He looked at her, tired but sincere. "Because someone has to do the right thing, even when it's hard." She closed her eyes for a moment. She had never met anyone like him before. Not in the camps, not in her tribe, not in her old life. He didn't treat her like a slave, or a trophy, or even a war prize. He treated her like a person. Cliffhanger. Outside, in the shadows, a cloaked figure watched Jackson's shelter. He pressed a button on a small device and whispered into it. "Target identified. Alien female alive. Prepare for retrieval." Something worse was coming, and this time, kindness might not be enough to save her. Asterisk. The knock was gentle, but it still made Syra flinch. She sat on the bed, arms around her legs, body still healing from bruises. The soft knock came again. "It's just me," Jackson said from behind the door. Syra relaxed just a little. He stepped inside holding a small tray of food. On it, warm bread, a fruit cube, and a steaming mug of something sweet-smelling. "I thought you might be hungry," he said, placing the tray on the small table. Syra didn't move. Her eyes didn't trust the food. Her body remembered too many poisoned meals, too many tricks. But Jackson didn't force her. He just sat on the floor, opened his own small ration pack, and started eating. Quiet, calm, for 10 minutes. They said nothing. Then Syra's stomach growled loudly. Jackson smiled a little but didn't laugh. "You're safe here," he said gently. "Eat if you want, or not. I won't be angry." Syra waited a few more seconds. Then slowly, carefully, she picked up the bread and took the smallest bite. Her eyes widened. "It's sweet," she whispered. "Earth-style honey bread," Jackson said. "A luxury around here." He had saved it for weeks. He gave it to her without a second thought. For the first time in many nights, Syra didn't feel like a prisoner. She felt like a guest. After eating, she leaned back and looked at him. Her voice was quiet, unsure. "Why do you keep doing this? Treating me like I'm—" She couldn't finish the sentence. Jackson looked at her, not with pity but with care. "Because I want to," he said. "You deserve kindness, Syra. I don't care what the world says." Her heart stung. She wanted to believe him. And for a moment, she did. That night, as the stars lit the sky above the camp, Jackson brought out an old translator device, half broken and dusty. He wiped it clean and set it on the table. "I've been fixing this," he said, "so we can understand each other better." He pressed a button. The screen lit up. Glitches danced across it, but it worked. "Try speaking into it," he said. Syra leaned forward, unsure. She spoke her name. "Syra," the device repeated. It back in Jackson's language. "Syra," he laughed. "Now we're getting somewhere." Syra blinked. It wasn't just the device. It was his laugh. It was light. Real. It made her lips twitch. Just a little. "Is that a smile?" Jackson asked, teasing gently. "No," she said quickly, turning her face away, but it was. The smallest smile had touched her lips. A moment later, Jackson showed her something else, a piece of Earth music saved on his datapad. A simple melody with soft words. It played quietly in the room as they sat in silence. The song spoke of home, of green trees, of warm sun. Syra closed her eyes, and for once, her mind didn't go back to the prison cages or the chains. It went to a memory. A good one. Her little sister laughing in a field back on her home planet. Before the war. Before everything. A tear rolled down Syra's cheek. She quickly wiped it. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "For what?" "For feeling something again." Jackson didn't answer. He just placed the datapad closer to her. "Feel as much as you want," he said. "That's how I know you're healing." But outside. Someone else was watching. The cloaked figure from before had returned. He crouched behind a broken wall, listening through a signal booster. "She's getting close to him," he whispered into his comm. "We have to act soon." "Orders?" A voice replied through the static. The figure narrowed his eyes. "Wait until she smiles again, then rip her away." Cliffhanger. Syra had smiled for the first time in years. But someone had just marked that smile as the signal to take her away. It began with a scream in the middle of the night. Not Syra's. Jackson's. He thrashed on the floor, caught in a nightmare. Sweat covered his face. He muttered something, broken words, images of war, fire, pain. Syra rushed over, heart racing. She grabbed his shoulders and shook him gently. "Jackson, wake up!" His eyes snapped open, wild, lost. Then he saw her, and the fear vanished like smoke. He blinked, breathing hard. I'm sorry." Syra tilted her head. "You dream of pain too?" He nodded, wiping his face. "Every night." For the first time, they understood each other not as rescuer and rescued, but as two people haunted by their pasts. That same morning, Jackson made a decision. No more running, he sighed. I'm going to remove that tracker mark on your neck. The one they used to control you. Sierra froze. Her fingers reached up to the back of her neck. A tiny metal bump rested there, cold and evil. She had almost forgotten it was there. Can it be removed? Not legally, Jackson said. But I know someone. Off the books. They left the camp quietly under a false supply mission. Jackson drove an old hoverbike, Sierra holding tightly behind him as wind rushed past their faces. They rode into the dusty badlands of the planet, where the rules didn't matter and law meant nothing. After 2 hours, they reached a dark cave lit with flickering red lights. An old tech doctor lived there, covered in wires and scars. His name was Drick, part machine, part man. You brought me a slave. Drick growled as he looked at Sierra. She's not a slave, Jackson snapped. She's free. I need the tracker removed. Drick raised an eyebrow. That's expensive and dangerous. I'll pay, Jackson said. All of it. Drick looked at Sierra. Do you trust him? She hesitated. Then nodded once. The operation began. Sierra lay on a cold table as machines scanned her body. She clenched her teeth as a thin blade sliced her skin carefully. Drick's eyes widened as he pulled out the tiny device buried in her neck. This isn't a normal tracker. He muttered. Jackson frowned. What do you mean? Drick held it up to the light. This is royal grade. Used only on noble prisoners. Only someone important would have had this level of control chip. Sierra looked away, silent. Jackson turned to her, stunned. Sierra, what is he talking about? She didn't answer. Drick turned on a screen, showing old galactic records. A name appeared. A title. A family crest. Princess Sierra of the House Viari. Jackson stared at the screen, speechless. You were royalty? Sierra nodded slowly. Before the war. Before everything. My people lost. My name was erased. I was captured and sold so no one would know. Jackson stepped back, overwhelmed. All this time, you never said anything. What would it change? Sierra said quietly. Would you have treated me better if I had a title, or worse? Jackson looked into her eyes. I would have treated you the same. You're still you, Sierra blinked. She hadn't expected that answer, but the truth had brought danger with it. Drick leaned in close. If they know you're alive and still royal, they'll hunt you. Hard. Someone is probably tracking this scan already. Outside the cave, something beeped. A cloaked bounty hunter crouched by the rocks. He smiled as the data finished uploading to his tracker. Target confirmed, he whispered. Princess Sierra is alive. Lock her location. Inside the cave. Jackson helped Sierra off the table. I'm sorry I didn't tell you sooner, she said softly. I'm not angry, he said. But now I know something else. What? If they come for you, they'll have to go through me. Cliffhanger. As they prepared to leave, a shadow moved near the cave entrance. A blaster was loaded. Footsteps crept closer. And the hunter whispered, Goodbye, Princess. The first shot missed Jackson's head by 2 inches. The second one didn't miss the wall behind him. It exploded into sparks. Down, he shouted, diving across the cave floor and pulling Sierra with him behind a metal table. The bounty hunter stepped into view, tall and silent, wrapped in a dark cloak with glowing red eyes beneath his helmet. A price had been put on Sierra's life, and he came to collect. I don't want to kill you, human, the hunter said calmly. Just give her to me. Jackson raised his head. You'll have to kill me first. That can be arranged. He fired again. Jackson grabbed a nearby pipe and threw it, distracting the hunter for a second. He and Sierra bolted through the side tunnel of the cave. It was narrow, dark, and full of old mining junk. He's coming. Sierra gasped. I know. Jackson growled. Drick shouted from behind. Take the north exit. It leads to the smuggler tunnels. Jackson didn't question it. He pulled Syra with him, heart pounding, feet slamming against metal floors. The sound of the hunter's boots echoed behind them. They reached a sealed metal hatch. Locked, Jackson slammed a control panel. It buzzed. Denied, Syra. Step forward. Her fingers moved fast over the keys, using her old training. A code entered. The lock beeped and hissed open. They ran through darkness, cold air, freedom dash, maybe the tunnel stretched for miles. They ran until their legs gave out. Jackson finally collapsed, gasping for breath. Syra dropped beside him, her voice shaking. You didn't have to do that. He almost killed you. I told you before, Jackson said, coughing. If they want you, they have to go through me. Why? She whispered. He looked at her. Her silver blue skin glowed faintly in the dark. Her eyes sparkled with tears she was trying to hide. She looked strong, broken, scared, beautiful. Because I care about you, he said. Not as a reward. Not as a symbol. I care about you. Syra looked away. She had been a princess once. Then a slave. Now a woman lost in between. Don't say things you don't mean, she whispered. I've almost died twice for you, Jackson said. Trust me, I mean every word. Silence. Then she asked something he didn't expect. If I asked you to run away with me, to leave everything, would you? Jackson didn't blink. Double quotes, yes. Even if it meant no money, no army, no future? He smiled weakly. I already have my future sitting right next to me. For the first time, Syra reached out and touched his hand. Not as a scared prisoner, not as a reward, but as someone choosing him. Back at the cave, the bounty hunter returned to his ship. He growled into his cum. She escaped, with the human. Voice replied coldly. Then they are both targets now. The hunter's ship lifted into the air. He wouldn't miss next time. Cliffhanger. As Jackson and Syra find shelter in an abandoned outpost, she turns to him in the flickering firelight and asks, would you still protect me, even if I loved you? Rain fell for the first time in weeks. Not the dirty kind that burned the skin, but soft, cold rain. The kind that washed away blood, pain, and memories. Inside a hidden outpost deep in the forest mountains, Syra stood by the window, silent, watching. The drops slide down the glass. She wasn't in chains. She wasn't trembling. She was waiting. Behind her, Jackson was fixing a cracked heater unit. His hands were dirty, his face tired, but his eyes still watched her every time she turned away. She finally spoke. Do you think we'll ever stop running? He looked up. Someday. When? When they give up chasing, or I stop breathing. Syra turned, face unreadable. I asked you something before. You never answered. Jackson raised a brow. About protecting you? She nodded. I told you. I will protect you, no matter what. She stepped closer. No, Jackson. I asked if you'd protect me, even if I loved you. The room grew quiet. He stood slowly, dust on his sleeves, engine grease on his jaw. I was afraid to answer, he admitted, because I've never loved someone like this before. Not someone the world said I couldn't have. Syra stared into his eyes. Then let me ask again, do you love me? Jackson stepped forward. I loved you the first time you looked at me like I was a person, not a captor. He reached for her hand. I love you for surviving. For staying kind, even after everything they did to you. Tears filled her eyes. And, yes, he whispered, I would protect you, even if it meant giving up my life. She pulled him into a kiss. No fear, no chains, no walls between them anymore. 3 weeks later, a small crowd of humans and a few alien friends stood inside a quiet outpost garden. Syra wore a long white robe stitched from scraps and cloth. Her silver blue skin glowed gently in the sunlight. Her hair was brushed smooth, falling over her. Shoulders like flowing ink. Jackson wore a clean uniform, nothing fancy. Just honest. They stood together under an old metal arch wrapped in vines. Are you ready? he whispered. She nodded. I've never been more free than I am with you. A human officer, acting as a wedding official, smiled and began the short ceremony. In the name of no planets, no crowns, no governments, but in the name of choice, do you take each other as husband and wife? I do, Jackson said, eyes steady. I do, Syra whispered, voice strong. They kissed as the small crowd clapped. Somewhere in the trees, a scout watched them quietly, blaster in hand. He aimed, then lowered the weapon. They're not fugitives, he muttered. They're family now. He turned and walked away. Final scene. That night, Jackson sat outside, Syra's head resting on his chest as stars lit the sky. Strange. She said, what is? I was given to you as a slave, but I ended up giving you my heart. He smiled and kissed her forehead. You weren't given to me, he said. You found me. They stayed quiet. The fire crackled beside them, and, for the first time in both their lives, they were home.